I'm Kaden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're watching Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 14 predictions. Man, we are getting so close to the end of the season. You can really start tasting playoffs. We're getting to a point where there's playoff clinching and playoff eliminating scenarios left and right starting to happen. So it's the craziest time of year, far and away. Everyone's really getting desperate. Speaking of desperate, a quick update on Cal and I's head-to-head pick'em game. I'm getting a little desperate myself. I put up a pretty decent week and dropped 10 points last week, but Callan outdid me again and put up a total of 12 and lengthened his differential into double digits, putting me with a total of 129 and Callan with a total of 140, making the number I need to bridge 11 now. And we are getting real close to this season, like I mentioned. I don't see myself making up 11 points in the regular season. I think you're going to take the regular season on me. But it really starts getting crazy in the playoffs when we start adding those point multipliers. So there will be my chance to bridge the gap.
It's not over yet till the end of the season, but it's definitely looking like you said, like I'm going to take the regular season crown.
Exactly. So putting the blinders on for the future and focusing on it this week. You have to take it 1 week at a time. Start my comeback here with NFL Week 14 and Thursday night football of the New England Patriots heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And we start like we almost always do with Thursday night football for whatever reason by agreeing. We both have the Steelers in this one. We are both taking Mitchell Trubisky over Bailey Zappi because why not? What a terrible matchup that's what we've come down to.
Yep, Al Michaels is going to be very impressed by this one.
Oh, he's just gonna tear him apart. He's getting to the age where he just doesn't care what he says anymore. It's Amazon. I think he could probably cuss and they wouldn't even care at this point. So maybe Al Michaels will just really start letting loose. But Mac Jones has just played like a garbage can this year. Kenny Pickett didn't really play much better, but he got taken down by injury rather than by benching, giving us the legendary Bailey Zappi versus Mitchell Trubisky matchup. But nonetheless, I think the Steelers just have the overall better team right now. Ramondre Stevenson, I want to say, is questionable. He left with an injury last week. I don't know if he will be playing.
He's out. He's out for 3 weeks. He also had a high ankle sprain.
Oh, so he's definitely out. He's going to be out for 3 weeks. So yeah, that's just even with Ramondre Stevenson, I probably still take the Steelers. But with him being out even more, the Steelers just have a better roster around their quarterback, especially on the defensive side of the ball with a monster like TJ Watt. So I got them in this one.
Yeah, I like the Steelers in this one too. Not just really because of Mitchell Trubisky, but more because of that Steelers defense. I think that they're going to score more points than the Steelers offense. I could definitely see a defensive touchdown or special teams touchdown by the Steelers this week. So I could, like T.J. Watt coming off the edge or Minka Fitzpatrick on interception. Who's their punt returner? I can't think of
Calvin Austin.
Calvin Austin on a punt return. So definitely a big play possible from the defensive special team side for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week because that New England Patriots offense is just so turnover prone. Whether it's Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones, they are one of the leaders in turnovers this year. And one interesting fact is that over the past 4 games, the Patriots defense has only allowed 46 points, which is actually the highest in the NFL, or not highest, but lowest in the NFL.
Ranked,
yeah, and then the teams 2 through 4 are 3-1 or better, and the Patriots are 0-4. So go figure. That's just how bad that Patriots offense is. That the Patriots defense is able to keep the other teams from scoring points, but the Patriots offense just keeps turning it over and not scoring points that they're losing games. So it's just tough rolling for the Patriots right now.
Sounds like another team in that AFC East. I am looking at you, Jets. My
God.
It's
very similar.
Same story, different city, to say the least. But yeah, I like that you mentioned that because something very uncharacteristic from the Patriots is how badly their special teams has been playing as of late. So I could definitely see Calvin Austin getting some sort of huge return. Really liked him ever since he came out of Memphis. I want to say 2 years ago. So great stuff from him. Now, jumping down the list a little bit to what will probably be just as bad of a matchup at the end of the day, we have the Minnesota Vikings heading to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. And we agree again, we both have the Vikings in this one. All eyes are really going to be on none other than Josh Dobbs here. Of course, when he first started, all eyes were on him because it was, can they do it with a backup quarterback? But he kind of proved that we can do it with a backup quarterback. Now all eyes are going to be on him because can the backup quarterback stop turning the ball over? Between the 2 games that he played before the bye week, which was Denver and Chicago, I want to say he had 7 total interceptions and at least 1 lost fumble in that, which is just terrible. You can't have that, and you can't expect to win with that. But more surprising than anything, in those 2 games with that 6 or 7 turnovers just from Josh Dobbs, we've only lost by a combined like 4 or 5 points, which is even crazier to say. So that just goes to show that our defense has been playing really well, and we win games if we just limit the turnovers. Seems like something I've been saying week in and week out for the Vikings this year, and they just can't seem to get it reeled in. But I think after a bye week, I think Josh Dobbs isn't so overhyped anymore. You know, when he got when he came in and got those 2 wins, it was the Pasternaut, and he was all the rage, and it was so crazy. And I think he kind of got ahead of himself, and he felt like he had to do too much week in and week out, and he started getting those turnovers, started throwing the interceptions. So I think now he had the bye week to kind of calm down, expectations lower a little bit, and I think he's going to come out and actually play really well, and it's kind of a good defense to have a get-back game on. He's going to have some huge pass rush coming from Max Crosby, which isn't going to be great. But one benefit for us is Max Crosby is going to be matched up against Brian O'Neill, who's one of our best offensive linemen all game. So I got the Vikings in this one. Definitely a little nervous, but feeling good about a Josh Dobbs resurrection.
Well, I like the Vikings in this one because of unsung hero Brian Flores, who has really turned around this defense and made it an overachiever, really, with the number of young players on the defense, and has unlocked a monster in Daniil Hunter, who is one of the top leaders in sack numbers this year, and is going to get paid this offseason by a really big deal because he has just really turned over a new leaf and has shown that he can be a dominant force on that defensive side of the ball. And because of that, I think that the Vikings are going to get too much pressure on Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders offense to really get rolling. I know their old friend Devontae Adams will probably get a couple of catches at least, and maybe a big play or two, but I think they're going to be able to keep him shut down because, like I said, Brian Flores has really coached this team to be a very well coached team and very disciplined. And I think that they're going to be able to keep the Raiders to a low number of points.
Yeah, Hunter's been killing it. 2 other guys, Byron Murphy has been an amazing pickup so far. Hopefully he stays healthy. And Cam Bynum has came out of the woodworks. We've had him for a while now. We got him out of Cal in 2021. But he's always just kind of been a meh guy. But something about Flores' defense has just really unlocked his potential. So great
and
stuff
Ivan Pace.
Ivan Pace, undrafted free agent out of Cincy. He's been killing it this year too. So now moving on to our game of the week in a huge AFC matchup with the Buffalo Bills heading to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. And because we seem to constantly do this, we do not talk about games or our picks before we show them. But we both have the Bills and we both have them as our upset. It's so weird. You think we'd pick the same lock pretty constantly and not the same upset, but it's the opposite. We never lock in the same team and we're constantly picking the same upset. Crazy stuff, but nonetheless, both have the Bills, both have them as our upset. I like the Bills in this one just because they're coming off of a bye week, so they got a little bit of rest. The Chiefs are coming off a loss, which usually Chiefs are really good coming off of a loss, but this whole season has just been little different for the Chiefs. They just they kind of seem to not be that absolute upper echelon that they usually are these past few years. Still very good, but just something a little off about them. And I think the Bills are starting to realize, like, oh crap, we're fighting for the playoffs now. Like, I don't even know if they're in the playoffs right now.
No, they are out of it. They are the 9th seed, I want to say.
Yeah,
they're not even, right behind. They're just in the hunt.
Exactly. They're fighting to stay in the hunt pretty much at this point. And I think that's really going to start to light a fire under their ass because they just have too much talent there in Buffalo. to be sitting there at that 9, 8, whatever seed they're in, to not be in the playoffs. There's way too much talent there. So I think these last few weeks of this season, they're going to go on an absolute tear, and it starts here in Kansas City.
Yeah, I like Buffalo on this one because that Kansas City offense has just been totally out of sync. And even though that the running game has been quite solid, the passing game has been what is weak, which with career low numbers in yards per game and passer rating for Patrick Mahomes so far this season, uh, it has been one of the worst years of his career, if not the worst. Still decent numbers, but not Superman Patrick Mahomes numbers. But the way that Mahomes and his out of syncness with his wide receivers is really killing this Chiefs offense, who is on a career low of points per game also, and they have the most or the least amount of points scored in the second half so far in the NFL this year, and that continues to be a trend for them. And not able to score many points in the second half. So for whatever reason, they're not making the right adjustments at halftime, and it's not able to click for them. They're having to be led by their defense, who has been stellar and outstanding, but not one of the top units, so to say, of the league. But the way that the Chiefs defense is or Chiefs team is being led right now, it all comes down to the way their defense plays and how many points they're able to keep from their other team from scoring. And I think that the Bills are going to be able to score a lot of points against this Chiefs defense because, like you said, they're fighting for their lives. And there's nothing more dangerous than a team that's backed up in the corner fighting for their playoff lives.
Certainly. Least points in the second half.
Yep.
That's brutal. Shocker that you can't survive on an offense just through your tight end. It's crazy to think, but who knows?
A 35-year-old tight end,
exactly,
nonetheless.
Yeah. Who's looking to retire and, settle down with his new girl. But next up, we have our matchup of the week on the NFC side of things with a divisional matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. And as you'll see as a common thread in this episode, we agree again. We both have the Cowboys in this one. I think the Eagles took the first one, if I'm not mistaken, and they have a 1-game lead in that NFC East right now. So it is just so much momentum, so much want by the Cowboys right now. It's in Dallas. This is going to be a hell of a game. It's going to be a super close game nonetheless. And it's one of those games where I can sit here and rattle off a bunch of small little reasons, but more than anything, I'm just taking the home field advantage here. I think that those Cowboys faithful fans are going to be showing up to AT&T Stadium. They are going to get it rocking, and it is going to mess with this Philadelphia Eagles team who just got absolutely crushed by the 49ers last week. The Cowboys have a lot of tape on where that they can kind of poke holes in that Eagles defense and kind of take advantage of some of the Eagles' weaker points. They have it all laid out right there for them. The 49ers helped them out. 49ers also absolutely crushed the Cowboys, though, so I guess maybe the Eagles could just go back and look at that tape. But nonetheless, I got the Dallas in this one.
I like the Cowboys in this one, too. The Eagles, I think, are just going to be kind of shell-shocked from that beating they took from San Francisco, and it really showed kind of some holes in that Philadelphia offense. And I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to capitalize off of that film and off of that beating that the Eagles took. And not only are the Cowboys at home, which I think helps, obviously, for being at home, but they are on a roll offensively with Dak Prescott putting up MVP numbers and being, I think he's 4th in the MVP voting right now. So he's right up there with one of the top quarterbacks of the league this year. And I think that he's going to help lead the way, and Dallas is going to score a lot of points on that Philadelphia Eagles defense.
If it wasn't for a Jefferson injury and Tyreek Hill being on the absolute tear he's on, I think CeeDee Lamb's probably one of the best wide receivers in the league.
That too,
right now.
CeeDee Lamb is on a tear.
He has been tearing it up. Speaking of Tyreek Hill, next up we have one of the 2 Monday Night Football games this week with the Tennessee Titans heading to Miami to take on Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. And we agree again, and Callan has the Dolphins as his lock. We both have the Dolphins in this one. Not really much to say here. We opened this one with what I said was a terrible matchup because of the two teams both being so bad. And this one's a terrible matchup just because it's more than likely going to be an absolute blowout, to say the least. The Titans kind of looked like maybe they were getting it together last week, but then had the Colts and Gardner Minshew stage a comeback on them and come back and win with a field goal in overtime. So it just shows that the Titans are young and are developing and getting better, but they just aren't there yet. And this Miami Dolphins team has shown that it's there, it's ready. If I'm not mistaken, they might be the 1 seed in the AFC right now. So they are just ready to go, and I think they're going to absolute roll another AFC opponent here.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Dolphins are likely to get another win, and they are the current 1 seed right now in the AFC. So right now the playoffs in the AFC side rolls through Miami, and the way it's going with the schedule for the Dolphins, it's going to look like continue to roll through Miami. I like the Dolphins in this one because the Titans just don't have a very strong defense. Jeffrey Simmons is likely out, which is probably their defensive star. So it's gonna be tough to stop that Dolphins running game led by Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, who has come back from his knee injury to show that he's not missed a beat. And then you got Tyreek Hill, who obviously will probably get one of his long bombs. He got 2 last week, and he'll get another one this week. But I really like the way that Tua has played so far. Now he's able to kind of dominate the lower tier teams, but I got to see him kind of play against these bigger tier teams and see him really kind of make those big wins. So, and this is more of a lower tiered matchup, so he's got to kind of step up and continue that trend to show that he can at least continue to beat the teams he's supposed to beat.
I was going to say, you're not going to get one of those higher tier defenses this week.
Not this week.
Especially if Jeffrey Simmons out. Oh man, that's a tough one for the Titans. And then finally, to cap off this episode, we have the second of 2 Monday Night Football games with none other than the Green Bay Packers heading to New York to take on the Giants. And we finally disagree in this episode. It happened once this episode. Callan has the Packers in this one. I have the Giants. Giants are coming off of a bye week, and they just have all of the makings of a trap game right now. They had kind of been struggling before the bye week. They had a really good showing against the Commanders right before going into their bye week. But here they are. They're very beat up. They're missing their starting quarterback. Weren't really having too good of a season even when they had their starting quarterback. So once Tommy DeVito came in, everyone thought this season's absolutely over. And here the Packers are on an absolute roll right now. Jordan Love is playing very well. So like I said, just every little aspect of it seems like it's going to be a trap game. It's in New York. The New York Giants love to do the upset. They did it to the Patriots twice. They seem to only play well if they're playing from behind. They beat the Vikings last year as the 6th seed in the playoffs. They can only do it if everyone doubts them, it seems to be. So I've got to imagine about everyone doubts them here, so I have them as an upset here.
Well, I like the Packers in this one. I've kind of turned the leaf. I'm starting to pick the Packers again because, boy, has that offense been on fire. And I talked about it a lot yesterday about how Jordan Love has been on a tear and has been able to really perform at near franchise quarterback level for over the past few games at least. We'll see what it looks like over the whole season, but he's definitely on a high right now. And I think that he continues that role right over New York, and it'll be on the big stage. He'll be able to, show off his form and on the bright lights in New York City. But I am fearful of one thing, and that is Saquon Barkley, because I have firsthand seen that guy take over a game and win it by himself. He is one of those players that reminds me of reminiscent of Adrian Peterson. He's able to catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run it up the middle, between the numbers, outside the numbers, anywhere on the field. This guy can score from. And we know the Packers defense, their run defense is kind of an Achilles heel for us. So that definitely has the makings for a big game for Saquon Barkley. So I think if we're able to keep him under 200 yards, we got a Packers victory.
I feel like I've heard that before. But yeah, Saquon Barkley, when healthy, is one of those guys who can truly be a one-man army. I love how you avoided saying he's been playing like a franchise quarterback. What'd you say? Near franchise?
Near franchise quarterback
He's
level.
been playing reminiscent of a near franchise quarterback. No, it just sounded funny because you had to stop yourself.
I don't want to get,
I'll give it. He's been playing really well.
He's been playing really well. It's been exciting.
The Vikings need a Packers loss because all of a sudden that 6 and 7 seed in the wild card are looking really close with a couple of different teams.
Oh, well, according to Keyshawn Nixon, we're coming for the 1 seed.
Oh, well, that's quite extreme, but I mean.
I know, that's asking a little much. Let's just shoot for the playoffs.
Shoot for the stars, guys.
But hey, you know what? Hey, yeah, like you said, shoot for the big star. But if we make the playoffs, I'll be very happy with that.
Certainly. So that was our NFL Week 14 predictions. Make sure you stay tuned in until next week to see how this crazy season starts to come to a close. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, don't forget
to eat the W.